Dave.
Yeah. Why are you so tiny?
Why are you, what's going on?
Growth spurt.
That was the worst.
Weird.
Adoption. That's all I got. Alright, bye. Good luck.
That was a good vlog.
So we have the 5A Summit coming up here Wednesday, August 30th at 7 o'clock. And we've decided that we're actually going to give you a little preview about what it's going to look like. It's not going to be this green wall. And I'll probably be sitting, so I'll be like here. You guys like Wilson from Home Improvement?
Oh yeah, there you go.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, okay. So we chose a question at random. We're going to go ahead and answer one. This is from Melissa T.
This is from Melissa T. That was really horrible.
Don't do that. Don't ever do that snap thing, click noise at anybody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the worst.
I'll leave again.
Thank you.
So this question comes from Melissa T. And she asks, what was the hardest age for you growing up? And what could have helped or made it easier for you? You want to go first?
Sure. I don't actually remember the specific age that was the hardest for me growing up, but I'm pretty sure it was middle school. And I'm about 95. I mean, I think middle school is terrible for everybody, though. I think it's a hard set of years. Like, we're going through all these changes, and let's,
My voice!
What's happening? The first time I remember doing a family tree project. And I remember the family tree, and that kind of sparked off a lot of stuff that I, as a smaller child, would have just rolled off me. And as an adult, I would have had the maturity to deal with. But as a 6th grader, it was like, hey, we're doing this family tree. Okay, here's my family, but where does my birth mother's name go in this? Mm-hmm. And then that was the beginning of all of the who am I? Why was I adopted? What happened? All this kind of stuff that really I don't think any of us were prepared for. The only thing that I know that would have made that whole era easier for me would have been just if we had known that this was coming, right? And maybe some basic advice about how to deal with it, or just that, hey, this question is kind of a big deal for adoptees, because I know that my parents were taught in the early 80s that you just kind of brush that one under the rug. You behave as if everything is just kind of normal. And that was the common answer at the time. It's not really a very good answer. So having that kind of open line of communication, just having that be known, hey, this kind of thing is coming and it's going to spark a lot of identity issues in your kid when he hits 12 or 13, and when his voice starts to crack. Jesus. It's already bad, so
you're already self-conscious enough.
Get into it. Here you go.
I don't know who I am.
I think that would have helped.
I just made fun of everybody. I apologize. I'm a horrible human being.
All the kids, which is funny because you work with that age group.
I know I do. All the time. Hey. For me, there were two of them. Obviously, it's middle school, so I won't go over that. He kind of hit on pretty much everything that the typical adoptee goes through. The second one for me actually was because whenever I was younger, I got super sick. Doctors had no idea what was happening with me. I was in and out of hospitals, and it got to the point where I started memorizing people's faces from hospitals, and I'm like, oh, I know you. Oh, my life is sad. The question always came up. So what's your medical history, your family's medical history? I'm like, I don't know. I'm adopted?
Yeah.
That was it.
There's probably one.
Yeah, there was one. I just have no way of finding out what it is. Got through this thought process of, I'll never know who my family is. I never knew who they were before, and I really don't have much of a way of tracking anybody down, and even to ask them, hey, were you horribly sick when you were younger? Because I'm going through that now. And so, during that time, it was really hard for me. I had a hard time just not being depressed and going through the whole why was I giving up phase of adoption. Right.
Which, heads up, that's kind of a universal.
Yeah, it's everywhere, sorry. Honestly, what would have helped, and honestly did help, my parents. My parents, no matter what question I had, no matter how much I wanted to cry or complain or yell, they were always there for me. And they never brushed it off really and said, you know, well, yeah, you don't know, you'll never know, but let's move on. Like, they actually understood kind of where I was coming from. And even if they didn't understand, they still paid attention to me. They still talked with me about it. And so my parents played a huge part in that and why I got past it. Also, my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife now, I know, right?
Cute.
It worked out, yeah, he's cute. She stuck by me the whole time as well. You know, and even the times when I was just lying in bed, I couldn't do anything, she was there. And just knowing that people were there for me, it made a lot of it better. I didn't feel like I was abandoned. I didn't feel like I was given up. I felt like there were people surrounding me. And so that understanding really helped me get through that time.
How old were you?
I was about 16 during that phase. Okay. So Davo is an avid reader.
That's true.
I'm not good at it. I have a hard time with words.
I read enough for both of us.
Yeah, and so he's actually got a bunch of things. And talking with Tammy Cromer from Clara's Hope, they're an adoption orphan ministry essentially.
Foster care.
And foster care, yeah. They help out with a lot of things. So make sure you guys check them out. We'll put a link in the description for you guys to check them out too. But what do you got? I'm gonna move out this way. Woo! That was a little awkward. He was supposed to stay and I was supposed to leave.
So I've been doing a lot of research, and that's just who I am. So I research everything to the nth degree. And when it comes to the adoption stuff, I've had a lot of interesting trials and a lot of thought time regarding my adoption, and I've really started to study it. So just for those of you that are maybe just embarking on learning the deeper level of what it actually means psychologically and neurologically to be adopted, if you're a parent or a sibling or adopted yourself, whatever, there's a couple of resources that are available. We're going to try to be one of those resources for you, and just by being here and being candid about what we do and who we are, and creepily giving thumbs up. I've read several books on the subject of adoption from the perspective of an adult, and here's a couple that were recommended to me that have been really helpful, just off the shelf upstairs right now. The Primal Wound by Nancy Verrier talks a lot about one, her experience with her adopted daughter, and then two, the trauma that comes along during infant adoptions when you're separating an infant from their biological mother. That actually is a trauma, and what the results of that are down the line. The follow-up to that book was this super dense one called Coming Home to Self, The Adopted Child Grows Up, which was a really interesting read for me a couple of months ago, also by Nancy Verrier. If you are adopted and an adult, I would highly recommend this one. If you're not an adult, there's some pretty dense topics in here, so maybe you want to hold off on this one until you're maybe psychologically ready to read it. I just finished this one the other day, a recommendation from a friend of ours as well, 20 Things Adopted Kids Wish Their Adoptive Parents Knew. I don't think that there's a universal, but there are definitely themes when it comes to growing up as a child that's adopted. So several of those themes are addressed here. This one struck home with me just because her story this is by Sherry Eldridge. Her story is very similar to my story. Some of that stuff is kind of topical. I haven't seen a whole lot of writing specifically about international adoptions, and I'd like to see some of that, or maybe we'll write it, who knows? Probably not. Thank you so much for supporting everything that we do. We've got more adoption content stuff coming out along the way, and hopefully you're finding some value in this and that it's helping you process where you are if you're in a scenario similar to the ones we're in. Join us for the 5A Summit, which is a lofty name for a thing that's really just him and me talking about stuff. Next Wednesday, the 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
And we're going to answer your questions and some of our own regarding being an adult that was adopted and still is adopted.
I'm still adopted.
Hasn't changed since I've been an adult.
Go to the video, hit the little reminder button down there, and then it'll give you a little blast whenever we're about to go live. So make sure you guys check it out. We're really excited. Thank you so much for joining us for Brett and Dave Are Bad at Vlogging. Episode 20 something about adoption. It feels like, I don't know.
I feel like that's how most of our vlogs end.
That is how most of our vlogs end.